Hello people, welcome back to Hack Hunter. We got episode 11 coming right up. That's right, we're still here, and as long as we keep finding hacks, we're always going to keep hunting them. So thanks for watching, and especially thanks to all the people that have been emailing in to help us find some of these guys. Today we're going all the way up to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where one of our viewers wanted to sound the alarm on an artist that tattooed her friend, and well, it didn't go so well. So, everybody, sit back, relax, let's find some hacks. Alright, let's kick it off. Our lead today came from Allie. She's out of Minneapolis. She wrote, "Dear Hack Hunter, I was searching around for an artist because I'm planning to get a sleeve started. I looked through so many artist portfolios, but I'm having trouble finding a tattoo artist that does more of a fine line style that I'm looking for. I'm totally willing to travel if it's worth it, so if you could help me out, I'd appreciate it. By the way, my friend got tattooed by this guy last week because he was the only guy that could get her in on a Saturday. I tried to warn her not to, but she didn't listen to me, and it didn't end well. Anyways, thanks for your help. Hope you use me in an episode." Well, it's your lucky day, Allie, because we are going to use you in this episode, because this artist that you brought us is exactly what we're looking for. Hell, we might even have to give you a job after this. And to pay you back for your help, we did spend some serious time looking for the best artist we could for that fine line style that you're looking for. But before we show you who we found, let's check out some of the work by this guy that your friend got tattooed by. Let's break it down. Alright, this chap here is Greg Sullivan, the guy that Allie's friend got tattooed by. Now, Allie left me a picture of her friend's tattoo, and, well, I'm not gonna put it on blast, but, you'll see some of his work anyway. He works at Ink Shrinks Tattoo. You can find him at inkshrinkstattoo.com. Also on Facebook at Ink Shrinks Tattoo LLC. Right off the bat, one of his more recent pieces, but to be honest, I had a hard time finding recent stuff. That it didn't look like they kept up with their Facebook too well, or their online stuff, so a lot of this work is from a couple years ago. But I can tell you, I looked at stuff from many years ago, and all the way up until today, and I did not see improvement. And that's the main thing that I look for in a lot of artists when we're picking people. We don't want to put guys on blast that are learning, that are improving, that are evolving in their artwork. What I want to showcase is guys who have been doing it wrong from the get-go, have been building in like really bad habits and have not gotten any better over the years. And Greg is, sorry to say, Greg, but unfortunately you're an example of that. I've seen a lot of the same stuff, mainly line issues, a lot of line issues, and also a lot of really patchiness in the color fill-in. And I'll show you what I mean as we go. But right away, line issues. You can see this line just gets super thin, and light. It's definitely not at the proper depth. These circles are really kind of shaky, not solid circles. Right up here, along this upper edge, you can see that he tried to do kind of like a drop shadow. And it was almost, I don't know if he just doubled or triple lined over it, and he was trying to maybe mask some line mistakes by putting a little bit of shading there, because, I mean, he did put drop shadows under the beads, so I give him a little bit of credit. Maybe it is meant to be a drop shadow, but when you zoom out, that does not look like a drop shadow. It just looks like a really kind of blotchy, heavy line on the top there. And down here is another example of a really small drop shadow. And when I say drop shadow, I mean a shadow that's underneath something to make it look 3D. Like underneath this leaf here, there's this shadow. It's really small. And I don't see the point in doing that, especially on a piece this large. You zoom out, you barely even notice, from a distance that that's supposed to be there. So you could definitely bring that shadow out a lot more, make it a more obvious thing. But when it's so small like this, it just looks kind of like an etchy or blurry line from a distance. But also, obviously here, look at the point on this leaf. They don't even connect. That makes me mad. How lazy is that? Just connect the point. And then there's also places like this. Just a line missing. They just don't connect. This one just doesn't connect. What's that about? Take you 2 seconds to connect those. I don't know if he's just not looking close enough or if he just has a hard time knowing where his needle set is. But again, with what I was saying about the color fill being blotchy, you can just see these white patches in between this color. You see that? It's not a solid red. It's not a solid black blend to red. It's just really kind of patchy and blotchy looking. So I'm not sure what he's using to fill in, but it's just not working for him. Moving on. Again, this is a great example of how scratchy and etchy these lines are. To me, this looks like self-taught work. This looks like, he tried to teach himself, maybe watching YouTube videos or something, but he never was necessarily guided by a mentor or by other artists around him that could help him improve this technique. And again, with the fill-in, you're not getting like nice, neat detail or blending or anything. You're just getting like blotchy colors with little white patches in them that let you know it's definitely not solid. Definitely not solid. For the size of this, again, there's plenty of room to do a really cool, like, 3D looking eye on the cat, or really 3D looking the flowers. I cannot imagine, I mean, even if this was meant to look like a oversimplified drawing. It just misses the mark completely. This is actually the same person. Came back for another tattoo. You can see here's that kitty piece up here. And I wanted to show this because this is what it heals like. You see this blotchiness there in the pink? You see this line work down here, how it's blown out? That means it was way too deep. And that's easy to do with a thin liner. It's really easy to get blowout like this on certain spots of the body, particularly delicate spots where it's really thin skin. You're going to get these blowouts like up in here. How some of these lines are a lot thicker than others, that is not intentional. You can clearly see it, it's not intentional. And then this fill-in was meant to be solid, but it just came out really kind of patchy, where some of the pink is solid and laid in and some of it's not. Now, the bat, you just see a lot more of the same thing. This patchiness in the blue, look, I can see all these white spots in here. So my guess is that he's using the wrong type of needle set for what he needs. And sometimes when guys are self-taught, they get stuck on one kind of needle set and they keep using it over the years instead of researching the different kinds and utilizing which ones would be right in the right scenarios. Another example, just scratchy lines, shaky lines, and the shading is just not brought out all the way. There's so much negative space here. Even if you intended to do a piece with negative space like this, I mean, this black shading, it's not really a nice smooth blend into the light. It's just sort of, here's some dark patches, and then here's some medium patches, and here's some light patches. It's really muddy looking stuff. I think there's a lot to be learned here. I think... yeah, even on the art side of it, I'm seeing a lot of his stuff is very oversimplified, and then the shading is just sort of randomly placed in there. Another example in the flowers. I can't tell if this is a healed piece or not, but either way, you just see a lot of empty skin, a lot of patchy stuff. It looks so rushed. It looks so rushed. When you're filling that stuff in, you gotta be slow. You almost gotta work like a printer, a CNC machine to kind of slowly apply it. You can't just whip circles in there and hope that it's filled in solid. It's not working, whatever you're doing, Greg. You gotta work with somebody that knows how to do that solid fill and knows how to do that blending, or all of your stuff is gonna heal like this with this patchiness. This is not something the clients should be paying money for, that's certain. Another example with the gray wash where he just makes it real etchy, scratched out looking. He put a little bit more effort into the eye here. What I really don't like is that he circled the highlight. That's sort of the easy way to do it. The right way to do it is to color around it and leave it empty, but he just circled it with black, and that's kind of lazy, and when you back up, it doesn't look like a shiny 3D eye. It looks like an eye with circles on it. It's kind of goofy looking. But again, we got problems with lining. This line's way thicker than this line. These lines are way shallower and thinner than this line. It's just very inconsistent stuff. Very shaky along all of them. I think he also uses these really thin line weights the whole time. All of his pieces throughout his whole portfolio I was seeing is almost all of them were the same exact line weight. And it's like, I want to guess it's like a 3 or a 5 liner. And when we say a number like that, if for all those that aren't artists out there, aren't tattooers, that means how many needles are in the grouping. And from his, I can tell that he used the same needle grouping throughout. And I'm guessing it's a 5 liner, which is typically a relatively thin outliner. And to show you what I mean for anybody that's not a tattooer, these up here on the top row are outliners. You can see there's different line weights, but they always come to a point, right? Liners always come to a point. It's got multiple needles, but they always taper to a point together. What I believe he's doing when he's shading and coloring in areas, he's using a round shader, which is what this middle row is. A round shader is something like this. It looks a lot like a liner, only it doesn't come to a point. The needles just stick straight out. Now, to color large areas and to create nice, smooth blends, you need to use a mag, something like on this bottom row here. You got to think of it as like different types of paintbrushes. You're not going to paint a whole painting with just one brush. You're usually going to use different ones for different effects. And this is the same with tattooing. You gotta research what you need, research the more modern equipment, the new stuff that's coming out, so that you stay with the time, so that you have that advantage going into every single piece. But some artists like Greg here, it looks like he just does not take the time to do that. Here's another example. Liners, if you were to look straight at the needles, liners are set up like this. Shaders are set up the exact same way. And what we call mags are like this, where there's multiple layers, or sometimes a single layer. But it's a fanned out layer, much like a wide paintbrush. And it's meant for large blending or soft shading, or when you need to create a soft edge. And I've seen in a lot of his work, there's just not soft edges. You see what I mean, right? Here's a great example. This pink, there's just a harsh edge there. It doesn't blend nicely into the purple. And this is something that I really want clients to look for when they're looking for a tattoo. You can zoom in and see, is there a nice gradation between colors, or is there just sort of patchy sections where colors are just sitting next to each other? And again, with the line work here, this filigree that he did down here, this black swirly filigree, is just so shaky, so shaky. And even the fill-in on it, you can see the light spots again in his black. It's really not solid. So a lot of the same work over and over again. This is when I had to show. I genuinely feel bad for this person. This was, I guess, Greg's version of fine line. And it just misses the mark 100%. This is one of these sort of DMT style artworks, and these can be very beautiful as tattoos. They gotta be planned out. They're very meticulous. It requires a disciplined artist who's gonna take their time, and they're gonna keep their skill and their wits about them throughout the whole thing. They can't get a couple hours in and then get lazy about it or get kind of exhausted, or this is the kind of thing you end up with where it just looks kind of hard to read, not much definition or clarity. Again, with the patchy color that doesn't blend well, and you got just a ton of shaky lines. I think he really tried to oversimplify this thing to make it work for himself, but ultimately this girl should have been finding a better artist for the job. All in all, I just gotta say, Greg, you gotta find an apprenticeship. You got to. I know you've been doing it a long time. It's hard to take a step backwards, but you need to. This kind of artwork is just, it's lacking on so many levels. The lines are very, very shaky. It looks like they've been shaky for a long time, which means you need to find a way to control your depth. So maybe trying different grips on your machine, try different line weights, and also especially for your fill-in or your color blending, you gotta use different types of shaders, different types of mags until you find one that actually works for you, because the saturation is just not there. Anyway, guys, leave your comments down below. Let Greg know what you think of his artwork. And, Allie, stick around. We found a fine line artist that is gonna blow your frickin' mind. Here we go. Allie, here he is. His name is Pookie. Can we talk about him, please? Just an amazing artist. You guys, you can check him out at peregrinetattoo.com. He's the owner there. As you can see, a very clean, well-maintained studio. You can also check him out on Instagram. Instagram.com/POOHKIONER. Very entertaining to look through his Instagram. I was just blown away. He's an incredibly versatile artist. I don't have enough time to show you all of this kind of stuff that he's proficient in doing, but please go check it out. You will not regret it. Right off the bat, I'm going to show you his cock. Most impressive, I would say. A lot of people would not put this much attention to detail, but we should all pay our cocks this much attention. Look at the tiny little details in here. Small lines, really tiny little tufts of feathers in there. Just unbelievable. Look at these feet. Didn't miss a beat. Just every little texture in there. And then I'll show you what it looks like colored. Bam! Look at that. Oh my god. Just super smooth. Not a single patch of white or anything showing like a lot of what you saw in Greg's work. You just did not see this solid saturation of color. You saw a lot of patchiness, and this just shows the immense amount of detail that he's capable of. You can see the way that that folds up there on the top of his head, plus the tiny little textures that he put in it. Just amazing. And you can see that he purposely chooses where to use nice, bold, smooth lines that stand out and create definition. And then there's other lines that he colors over, and they're just softer lines that create a nice light texture in the background. This is kind of his MO. I saw it through a lot of his work, just an incredible amount of attention to that detail. And here's the full piece from a distance, and you can just see that's very impressive. You would see that from a mile away. You would know what that is. That's just amazing. Here's an example of a serpentine dragon, or maybe it's just a snake monster. I don't know, but either way, if I zoom in on this mouth, look at that. Look at the slobber in there. Look at these tiny little teeth. Just amazing. And then again, with the tight detail that he put on the underbelly scales here. This is meant to be finer, lighter lines that he just colors over later. And so he's got a really good grip on where he wants his sharp, bold outer edges. And that shows that he knows what he wants to stand out, what he wants to look like it's closer in the foreground, what he wants to look like it's farther in the background. And it's just crisp. I also like that he didn't outline each of these spikes. That would have been the lazy way. A lot of artists would have took that route. And in some cases, it would look good. But here, he left it without an outline so that the texturing just speaks for itself. And from a distance, it just looks really awesome. This one right here is another amazing example. Look how smooth this line is on the wing. All of these individual feather lines, beautiful. A lot of artists also skip the midline on the feathers on these hummingbirds, and he definitely did not. All the little white dots in each one of these feathers make it so when you zoom out, you can definitely, it feels like you see each individual one even when you're zoomed out. I think it's amazing attention to detail here again. I love his white work in here just enough and in the right places so that it stands out. Here's an incredible back piece. I had to show this one. I love this glare effect off their faces for one, but then in here he chose to use skin breaks. Instead of using a lighter tone, he used those skin breaks, and the skin breaks actually make it look like whatever's in that box is coming out glowing at them. Just an incredible piece. Really great choice there. Nice sort of pastel coloring that he did on these mountains here. I see that a lot in his artwork, these sort of pastel colors. A lot of artists avoid these because unless you're really great at saturating color, those pastels can tend to look super faded even a week later, even if you do a good job. But you have to really know how to saturate, which he does. So it makes it so that he has an even wider range of colors to use because of it. Unbelievable Superman piece. Check out this yellow and gold work in the background especially. Again, you're not seeing any white patchiness. He knows how to saturate that color really well. Trust me, yellow and gold, they're difficult colors to saturate over a large area. They tend to bleed a lot. It's hard for us artists to tell, is it there or is it just bleeding? It's hard to know if you got to saturate it. But if you got your technique down, then you know. You can go over the area one time and you know that you got it in there saturated. And he does that incredibly well. I love he also chose this little lavender highlight in the backdrop of his head here. Nice little detail to add, I think. But yeah, I love that he didn't need a harsh black line here around the cape, because there's yellow in the backdrop, so there's already a great contrast between foreground and background. You don't need the harsh line to differentiate the two, and that's a good choice on his part, I think. It doesn't muddle it up with too much line work. It just looks nice and clean on its own. Nice choice. Here's a piece, I know it's not finished, it was one of his more recent pieces as I was filming this, and unbelievable. Look at all those little hairlines. He meticulously planned that all out ahead of time and made a really great stencil so that he didn't lose any of it, and you can see the direction of all of that hair flow because of it. Just very, very impressive, and to add the dot work style in there so that this symbol sort of pops out in its own way. I can't wait to see the end of the result of this piece. I believe that its nose or its snout is somewhere underwater there too, so that's going to be an interesting texture to see how he pulls that off. One of these things, I had to showcase this one because recently I got to do one as well, and believe me, it's not as easy as it seems to draw a dinosaur on a frickin' bike. Oh my goodness, to get the legs right, the position of the hands right, very awkward. I don't know what kind of dinosaur this is, but I love it. I love the color mixture here, this streak of blue down the center, right up next to the yellow, and to see how many colors that he blended in between the yellow and the red there. That's really impressive that he got so many in a small area, but it creates a great texture when you zoom out. Yeah, all these little tufts of feathers or hair here under the legs. I love it. Moving on, this piece, like I said, he's an incredibly versatile artist. I saw a bit of everything in there. I saw a bit of realism, abstract. I saw the fine line, of course. And then I saw a lot of, like, things that represented or looked a lot like new school color or even Americana. And so, I mean, it's just, if I was going to get tattooed, this is the kind of artist I'd look for. Somebody that's incredibly versatile like this, but every piece looks like he's just got it mastered. He knows what he's doing, and all of this is custom artwork. I guarantee it. This is not pick and stick stuff offline. He's a true artist at heart, and it definitely shows. Yeah, you could just look at this back piece forever. I'm very envious of the person that has this. This is just very impressive. So, obviously, Pookie, you know how I feel. Everybody put your comments down below. Let him know what you think of his artwork. And please, please go check out his Instagram. You'll be as impressed as I was. It was mind-blowing. Allie, go get an appointment with this guy. You won't regret it. Pookie, you are Hack Hunter approved, without a doubt. Keep doing what you're doing. You're making the industry look good, brother. That's it for this episode, but feel free to leave your thoughts on the episode down in the comments. Let me know what you thought of these two artists. Also, if you think you found a hack in your city, or if you just want us to do a review of your tattoo artist, send an email to TheHackHunters@gmail.com, and we might just feature them in next week's episode. But if you just like to watch, that's okay too. Just subscribe to the show, click on the bell icon, so you get notified when we post a new episode every week. We'll see you all then. Bye-bye.